Hello there from Delta Blues Tips, or the 3-chord kid, whatever. I want to talk to you today about something that's been on my mind for a good while. And it's about what happens. And what happens to you, when you learn the truth. The truth comes with a really terrible price in today's society. That price is loneliness. Because what happens is, it's like a bereavement. It's very similar to someone really close to you dying, and the way you'd feel lost. Say it was your spouse, for instance, or something like that, someone you loved deeply and believed in. Anyway, when you get the truth, it's very similar to that, because you found out that everything you believed in, held dear, thought, everything you'd put all your trust in, and everyone you put your trust in, turned out to be an illusion. And it slaps you in the face. It's like being in the face with a fucking shovel. It's an awful thing. You just sort of slouch in despair and realise that nothing is real. Real in the sense, I mean, that it's what it's meant to be. And the loneliness that comes with that is awful. Because what's happened is, almost everybody, without exception, that you know or have been involved with, is in the same state of downloading information through places like Facebook, the newspapers, the media, TV, films, anything you care to say, books they've read. And they're all constantly in a hypnotic state, really. They've been brainwashed. And I don't say this to insult them. I'm talking here about friends, my friends and family. But unfortunately, they are all in the same state. And when you've escaped that state, or if you're really lucky you've never been in that state, it's a lonely world. And one of the worst things about it is, you cannot go back. It's impossible to go back. Because anyone who knows the truth about anything, could be the truth about something that happened to someone, or any kind of thing at all really, just the truth. You know, you have the real information. That's what it's all about. The truth is, you have the true information. And once you have that information, you either keep it to yourself. And if it's a bad thing, for instance, if you'd witnessed a murder or you'd committed murder, I don't know, and you keep that secret, it just nags away at you. Because you can't really tell anyone that kind of secret. And of course, you're just wandering around. You're lost. And you're searching for people of the same. But unfortunately, there's none of them around. Now, if I took my own situation with family and friends, I think there are possibly, that I know personally, 3 people who I've got the truth and understand, who I can converse with. 3 people. 2 of those don't live in this country. And the other one does live in this country. And I'm not going to name none of them. Now, I know there's many thousands around the world who have got the truth. But the problem is, we're all fragmented all over the place. And it doesn't matter whether it was 10,000 or 20,000, it doesn't matter. Because 99.9% of the population are hypnotised. and they don't know they're hypnotised. But because they're all in the same group, you make people like me outcasts. And friends don't mean to do that. They don't mean to do it, or family. But they do it. Do it every day of their lives. Suddenly, you know, they'd rather not be with you. And I don't blame them in any way. Because what it is, they don't want real conversation. They don't want the truth. Because they're still in that state, that hypnotic state, that people like me have escaped from. And I remember well in my case, I remember the date. I was in school and I was writing the date on a page. I remember writing it. I don't know, it was something like, I can't remember the month or the day, but I know the year. It was 1969. Year that man is supposed to have gone to the moon. And I remember thinking, I just had this thought in my head. And I thought, this is not right, something's not right. And I remember an occasion even before that, earlier than that, I must have been about 12, I remember walking out onto the waste ground by where I lived, looking around me one morning, looking at my surroundings and thinking, I'm fucked. I remember that, distinctly remember that happening. Now I never had a happy childhood at all. My old man basically despised me, which led to me despising him in the end, obviously. And that's another matter. But it did create an awful rift in the family when he died. So much so that now probably there's only one person in the family that I think keeps in touch with me. And that's only now and again. And I think, to be brutally honest, because that's what it's all about, I'm doing the things that people don't do anymore. You don't really say how they feel, because they're incapable of doing it. But I'm not. I am capable of doing it. And I'm not ashamed to say how I feel. It doesn't bother me. It doesn't weaken me. It may weaken me in your eyes. But then again, you're brainwashed. It won't weaken me in the eyes of someone who thinks like me. They'll think of it as strong. And a perfect example of that, of how people are brainwashed, in my own situation. I went for a meal with my sisters. And of course, I never went to the funeral. So they really refused to accept or understand that. Why? Now most of them, not the youngest ones, will have seen how I was treated and did nothing. And I know deep down they're ashamed that they did nothing. They're very ashamed. So they don't like to see me really, because I'm a reminder of that shame and how I handled myself all the way through it. And the deep scars it does leave deep scars on you when someone just alienates you for no apparent reason at all. But that's what happened. My old man stopped speaking to me 35, 40 years ago. Just stopped. Like I never fucking existed. And when you're growing up, that's a hard thing to bear. You can't make sense of yourself because of it. And my brother, who's 2 years older than me, he knew, he's seen it. I did nothing. But anyway, it didn't stop me. He is still my brother. And I was always friends to him, or with him, or what have you. Although he moved in different circles than I did. And anyway, as time went by and all this just carried on, argument after argument, I got out as soon as I could. And to people around me who know me personally, they know all this. They know it already. But we ended up in a situation where I had to make a decision, which was a decision based on what was right for me. Now they would have liked me to just carried on like it was okay. It was never spoken about, by the way, between us. Never spoken about. It was just one of those awkward silences. Keep off the subject. We can't cope emotionally. Don't breach the subject. So anyway, I made the decision at the time of the funeral that I wasn't going to go. I wasn't going to honour the memory of someone who made my life a fucking living hell. There's no way on earth I was going to honour that. Nobody has the right to do that to you. So that's the way I felt. And I knew in my heart, deep down, that if I'd have gone to that funeral, I would have regretted it for the rest of my life. And I've only got about 20 years left myself, but I would have regretted it deeply. And they wouldn't have made a difference with them. They'd have still stayed the same, never spoken, nothing said. So I decided not to go. Because really, the only reason he wanted me to go was so they'd look like as if it was the fucking Waltons, when it wasn't. And I was deeply offended, but I still didn't say anything. Anyway, back to where I went. I went for a meal with one of them, to the house, like. And, you know, I don't see them very often. So I said, I think a few of them are avoiding me. No, they're not. They're just busy with other things and all that. Which is total bollocks, because they are. Anyway, then it got said, these words got said to me, which rang in my head, which just reiterated everything I've said about people being hypnotised. She then said to me, look, in a nice way, by the way, it was awkward, but it was nice. She said to me, I love me dad. I know you didn't like me dad, and I don't really want to talk about it. So I just had to sit there, which I wanted to reply, no, you're wrong. You're wrong. Your dad didn't like me. There's a difference. Because in the reply saying, you didn't like me dad, that puts the onus on me. And there was no onus on me. I did nothing wrong. Nothing. But this is the way they are. And in effect, through that brainwashing, what she's saying is, I'm alright, Jack. Fuck you and your feelings and everything else. I'm awful sorry, but that's the way it is. And that is exactly the way it is. That's the way it is with friends and family. About any subject you could broach. And I don't wish to offend them. You know, that's not my intention. My intention is to point out how difficult it is. So you get left in a position where you cannot say the truth, you cannot say your opinion, you refuse to speak about it, everything. And then suddenly you find out that you're going to go and see them or whatever, they're not going to be in. It's kept at arm's length, that's what it is. And it's kept at arm's length because emotionally, they're not in touch with their emotional DNA and they can't cope. We're just talking about these things because obviously conversation is dead, and it's dead on purpose. And that's what this video is really about. It's been killed on purpose, and it's been killed by the powers that be, who've constructed every single part of our lives since the day you were born. And all of them have been getting brainwashed since the day they came out of the mother. In every way possible, which culminates in now you've got things like Facebook, the media, movies, everything, the school life, how they went to school, and they have no idea. And it's not their fault, they have no idea. Plugged into the TV, plugged into everything else. And the thing is, 99.9% of people want to be popular with their peers. They want to be part of the group. They don't want to stand out. They don't want to put their head above the parapet and say what they mean. They can't cope with that. They need to be popular. They want to be just one of the gang. And of course, that's okay. I have no problem with that. I can understand people who are emotionally in that position. Because there's only a handful of us who have discovered the truth. But I want them to think about what they're doing to people like us who do know what's going on. We don't need to be treated as fools because you don't understand us. We understand why you don't understand us. But what you don't understand is why we don't understand you. Or we do understand you. Depends what way you're looking at it. It gets quite complex that bit. And it's not, again, I'll say it again, I'm not trying to offend anyone. You know, it amazes me on places like Facebook, as I call it, how people won't broach any subject, personal kind of subject. They always say, oh no, too much information. You can't give too much information. Facebook's already got all your information. They know everything about you. They know every doctor's appointment you've ever been to. And it's always been that way. It's been that way before it was Facebook. You have your telephone number, every detail of your life, every stroke of the keyboard you've typed in. So really, that's the illusion of it. Everything is known anyway. But what amazes me is these people will say that kind of thing. You don't want to talk personal, you don't want to do this. And then they'll throw pictures up at the kids on the internet for the world to see. Which I find bizarre. And this is what happens all along. That's why the like system exists on there. It exists so you can feel part of the gang. And how that can be used cruelly against you, which it is, used a lot. How they can manipulate that is, there might be a kid on there going through all the trials and tribulations of, say, puberty. And they're coming up to that age, you know, between 12, 16, motions riding high. And it's all a virtual world, and they've got, like, say, 100 friends. They're collecting friends, you can see it all over there, 200 friends. And then it may be a bit of a spat or a game or whatever, and next minute strike, one stroke of a key, and they've got no friends left. And this really happens. There's people who've gone out and committed suicide because they think they're not okay. When it was virtual anyway, we ain't real people. And this is what's wrong with society. This is how it's all getting manipulated towards us. And after all the stuff I've read and discovered over the years, which I've been studying a long way and a long time, I haven't seen it put well. I can't put it well. I've tried it 1,000 times, I can't do it. But I discovered, and I was aware of anyway, a guy called Alan Watt, a Scottish guy, who's probably one of the top investigators of truth and geopolitics, which is what's going on with us. Anyway, there's a series of clips from his videos up on YouTube. And it's 2 hours, a 2-hour interview with him. And they've been edited together, the different subjects. And I was watching it. And I realised straight away that here's a guy who knows what I know. He knows it. Because everything he told me, he didn't give me any new information I didn't have. But what he did give me was the feeling that here's a guy who worked it out. Worked it out through the facts, not surmising or anything. He's worked it out from the people that have done it, from their own words. And it's the first time I've ever come across anybody who actually knew what I knew. And that gave me the feeling that, you know, I am right. It's not a lost cause. It's a journey. It's an inner journey for me. And no doubt it is for the other people that want to know the truth. So anyway, I just put a link to his video in the worst place possible as a test. Facebook. Put a link saying, here's a guy who explains the reasons behind why we've all been hypnotised, why we're in this position, and it's the truth. But can you handle the truth? So I've sent it to a few mates saying pass it on. I don't think they'll watch it, and I'm not being offensive towards them in any way. They won't watch it because they've already been manipulated. And what it is, I think Bob Dylan put it very aptly. Brains have been mismanaged with great skill. So I just want to show you. I'm only going to give you the short clip of the typical thing that he's talking about in this video, just so you can go and have a look yourself if you're up for it. He's discussing here TV and what people have become.
Bernays techniques again. remembering too that he called it the creation of a consumer society. Well-behaved people, as long as there's money going around, they would go into the material world and they would forgo having children. That's the same thing as Charles Galton Darwin talks about. If we can encourage the woman and the male to go after the material benefits of the world, there's a slimmer chance they'll actually have children who tend to be economically burdensome. People were addicted to television in a very short space of time. Most people still today think that all entertainment to do with movies, drama, is therefore nothing more than their entertainment. It never ever was that case. The greatest social messages are promoted through movies and drama, high drama, through the fixation of emotive sequences, emotional sequences, not logical, factual sequences, but pushing points across in an emotional way which register and fix in the mind. So emotional content is very, very important, rather than going through an actual discussion or an argument using logic and facts. There's no debate. And when you're being downloaded through fiction, your guard is down, the censor part of your brain is not in action as you would in a debate or a lecture. You're actually in an alpha state, being completely downloaded with new ideas. Very similar to a computer. And so therefore, a culture industry, which is called by its own the culture industry. The Soviet Union had a department called the culture industry. Their actors and directors were called the cultural leaders. All you have to do is keep giving them new updates every so often, and you can change an entire country or a nation or a block of nations who are all getting the same upgrades at the same time along certain paths.
This bit's very interesting.
Today we call it political correctness. Most people want to belong to their peer group. They want to be the same as everyone else when it comes to opinions. In fact, they judge their own personal sanity by bouncing ideas off their neighbours and friends who will answer back and agree on these same topics in kind. It doesn't matter if the topics or what you're given are facts or utter nonsense, as long as everyone agrees at the same time. You'll say, well, I'm sane, and your friends will all agree because they've had the same information given to them. We don't only get the same information given to us, we're led through sequences, even documentaries, to leave you with a predetermined fixed conclusion on any given topic.
So there is part of it. And in this sequence of video clips, it takes you right from the beginning, how they've done it, why they've done it, right to the conclusions at the end. And everything he discusses in this, I discovered separately, reading from other sources. And it's the first time I've ever come across anything where all the things I discovered and read in other sources and found out have been put into one place by one man. And I think he really explains it in a great way. And I would urge you, if you want to know what's going on and why you're not free, your mind, this is well worth 2 hours out of your life. Of course, I know that I'm, basically asking for the ear, saying, watch this. Because it will only be people who really, truly want to be awake will look at this. Most people haven't got the time. And in this, you'll realise a little bit later on when he's talking that he tells you that all these people have pre-planned this for you so that you won't be able to think for yourself. And it's working. It's working. They're so successful at it. People like me, far, far and few between. And that doesn't make me special. It just makes me aware of what's going on. I'm not claiming any higher ground here. What I'm claiming is, out of all this, what I've said today, what I'm claiming is the truth, that's all. And the truth comes with a great price. Loneliness. There's nothing you can do. You're in a void, I can't go back. It's impossible to go back. So I can only go forward and carry on the search, looking for more things to complete the picture. And I don't think anyone who's reached there today has got the complete picture. But this way that he's doing it, I think, is a great way for anyone to approach it. And he's got tons, shed loads of work, documentaries, books out there. I'll give a link to his site. But I think he says it from the heart. And he doesn't do it in an emotional way. That's what I like. So if you watch this and you're a friend of mine or one of my family and you don't like what I've said, I'm not going to apologise for that, because what I've said is the truth. And that's all you've got at the end of the day. You've got the bullshit that most people believe, or you've got the truth. And some of the things they say to me quite often, which has been said in the family about me, "Oh, you're miserable." I'm not miserable. You've only got to look at my videos to know I'm not miserable. What it is that you're comatose. You don't understand. And that's why everyone's on drugs. That's why loads of people smoke weed, all the young people today. Because it's been placed upon them. Because they don't want anyone to think. So normally these people look at you and say, "Oh, you want to chill out." And I think, you know, like you, Jimmy, comatose. You're only on that because you can't accept reality, and that's the problem. You have to be able to accept reality, and I can. Good or bad. I don't claim any higher ground. I'm no better than anyone else. I didn't do anything in life to be such a good person, but I haven't done anything to be such a bad person. I'm just a human being. But the difference between me and most people is I'm not hypnotised by the bullshit. I'm awake. And of course, that is what makes people like me extremely lonely in this society. Because the pack mentality, the schoolyard mentality of the masses, who are really cowards deep down inside. Deep down inside, they don't understand. They don't want to be singled out, and they don't want to open up to the world. I'm not afraid to open up to the world. I have lots of things wrong with me. Lots of things. But what you've got to remember is, so have you. The difference between me and you is I'm prepared to talk about them. So there you go. I've been wanting to make that statement on the truth for a long time. Please don't be offended by it. I'll see you later.